on cycle racks, we are replacing a lot of them because A, a lot of them are old and pretty rubbish, but also in many town centres they were being used as a bench for street drinkers. So we did take away a lot of the old ones. I mean, where I live, there was a real problem with street drinkers, and they were using the cycle racks because we took the benches away, so there's something else to sit on. So the new cycle racks are a kind of a zigzag, so you can still chain your bike up, but you can't. It's not comfortable to sit on. In terms of cycle lanes, I'm going to be unpopular because I actually don't like cycle lanes. The reason being, I love cycle lanes in the West End of the city because I cycle into the city. And they're great in a city, in a London, because most of the main roads don't have parked cars. And so you can cycle through Camden, cycle through Westminster and the city, but their main roads do not have residential parking. So a cycle lane, you have a clear run. The problem we have in Barnet, and also in the West End, quite a lot of the roads are much wider, but they are main roads. The problem in Barnet, a lot of our main roads are heavily parked, and so we had lines of cycle lanes which were simply pointless because you'd get 50 yards and have to weave around the car, and there'd be a whole line. So they were pretty pointless. So as we resurfaced, we took the decision to take them out because as a cyclist, I'd rather have a smooth ride than have to weave in and out of cars. Where cycle lanes can work in a residential area is if you have a dedicated lane which you then put additional curbstone down the edge so no one can cross into that cycle lane. The difficulty is a lot of the roads in Barnet simply don't have that capacity, because if you then put a line in with a curb, you'd simply get people parking that further, alongside the new curb, which would mean that the capacity of the road to take traffic will be even more restricted. We all know what parking's like around here. The difficulty is they're not practical in many residential areas. CCTV is helpful. It does catch crime. In fact, we have caught a number of muggers and rapists because they've been caught on camera. The rollout of CCTV, in Barnet we only use CCTV for crime in town centres or crime hotspots. We don't use CCTV for yellow box, if you're turning right on a no right turn. We don't use it for traffic infringement. We use it for crime. We're quite strict on that. The rollout of CCTV, we do about 2 to 3 new areas a year because it costs on average about £250,000 a set. Because it's not just picking up a couple of cameras. You need more than, you'll need 3 or 4 cameras. They all have to be linked through fibre optics through the BT exchange down to the control room. So it is quite an expensive programme. The way we operate it is we work very closely with the police and we attack, or we put CCTV in crime hotspots where there is a history of a lot of crime. Now that's not the answer you're going to want to hear, because the area of Finchley Road, Temple Fortune is actually a relatively quiet spot. Because of the current spate of problems, it probably may well now start to come up the list. But if there are other areas of a higher incidence of crime, they will be done first. What we're looking at with a particular shopkeeper is CCTV, maybe some time off for that parade of shops, just because it is broadly a peaceful area. What we're looking at is whether the design of shutters, there's a lot of shutters that are on the outside, are not particularly useful, and they don't always create the right impression, but where you have ram railings, a lot of, ram railing is quite unusual in the borough. The shutters go inside the window, and they're strengthened when they hit the ground. The other, and it doesn't make the shop fronts look like a fortress, so it kind of doesn't create an atmosphere of fear. And the other thing we're looking at is whether the shopkeepers could put in a bollard, a retractable bollard, that is taken out in the mornings so that it doesn't spoil the appearance of the shop fronts, but they're put in at night, so which would stop a vehicle mounting into the shop. So, I mean, our highways people and our planners have been down there to try and work it through. On street lighting, it is a 5-year programme to replace every street light in the borough. Most of the street lights were at the end of their useful life. To the naked eye, quite a lot of them look fine. You and I will walk around, you might be having a lighting engineer, but most people look at it and think it's okay. But we believe beneath the paint,
fantastic.
A lot of the metal was corroded, and the other problem is the requirement on the luminosity has changed. You're quite right, there will be in any one street some street lights that probably would have lasted another 5 and 10 years. The difficulty is it is actually, conversely, it's cheaper to replace the whole road and then the whole borough than to pick 3. You know, if you're doing a street, you might as well do the whole street. So there are economies there. It actually saves the council £150,000 a year under the new street lighting contract, because the lamps are much more energy efficient, they use less energy, but give out more light. Two answers. One, I'll blow my own trumpet. Actually, Barnet's website is one of the best in the government. It's been signed off as one of the best. It is, you know, it will talk to by whoever measures and monitors local authority websites. Everything comes down to a matter of budgets. Wandsworth have nearly 3 times as much to spend per head of population as Barnet, and so they can afford to have probably a much bigger web team. My web team is 2 people, and that's it for council size of Barnet. I don't know what Wandsworth have in their web team. I always have to balance the budget, and it's a question of priorities. And we'll try and spend more money on, say, street sweeping or much more visible services than a website. The website isn't brilliant compared to a lot of corporate websites, but it does the basic job. We are working on it because it will come, the software comes to the end of its life within the next couple of years, and then to the next website coming through should address all of your concerns.